We start with new information in the murder of a young boy in Moorhead. Thanks for joining us. I'm Courtney Lockey. Court documents filed today are uncovering what officials believe happened to 3-year-old Easton in the days leading up to his death. Valley News team Sydney Zatz joins us live tonight in studio with those details. Sydney.
Courtney, the final autopsy report says Easton had 28 blunt force injuries. His manner of death was ruled homicide, and his cause of death is listed as an assault. Officers who responded to the scene back on March 18th noted heavy bruising on his face and body. According to court documents, Easton had been throwing up and complained that his body hurt in the days leading up to his death, but he was never taken to the hospital. Easton and his younger sibling were living with 21-year-old Cheyenne Erickson and 24-year-old Rosa Garza. The pair were arrested yesterday and charged with second-degree murder. Both made their initial court appearances in Clay County this morning, where bond was set at $1 million. Court documents also say Easton's mother told investigators the children had been living with Erickson and Garza since last summer, and the last time she saw her son was 2 weeks before his death. Courtney.
All right, Sydney, thanks so much. We have much more detail about this investigation. Just click on this story on valleynewslive.com.